I, a 34-year-old male, didn't mean to hear it, I swear. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop or anything. I was just in the kitchen, washing dishes, while Jessica, a 32-year-old female, my wife of 8 years, had her friends and family over. It was a Saturday night, and I'd spent most of the day helping set up for this dinner party she'd been planning for weeks. I'd grilled the steaks medium rare, exactly how her dad likes them, helped clean the entire house to her exact specifications, and even put out those stupid decorative hand towels in the bathroom that no one is actually supposed to use. The dinner itself went fine. I sat there, smiled at all the right moments, laughed at her brother-in-law's terrible jokes, and kept everyone's drinks filled, being the perfect husband like always. After dinner, I offered to clean up while they all moved to the living room for dessert and coffee. No one objected, no one even thanked me. It was just expected. I was in the kitchen up to my elbows in soapy water, half listening to the conversation drifting in from the living room. They were laughing, the kind of laughter that always made me feel like an outsider, even in my own home. Jessica's sister Emma has this really distinctive laugh, like a hyena that smoked 2 packs a day for 20 years. I could pick it out anywhere. She was laughing the loudest. Then I heard Jessica's voice cut through. "He can't please anyone anyway." That's what she said, all casual, like it was just a fact everybody already knew. And then they all laughed, like they all agreed with her, even her mom, who I always thought liked me. Her mom, who I'd helped move apartments last month, spending an entire weekend carrying heavy furniture up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken. I just stood there gripping the sink, my knuckles turning white, a plate dripping in my hands. I'm not a small guy. I played college rugby and still hit the gym 4 times a week. But in that moment, I felt fucking tiny. I waited for her to say she was joking or something, to add a "just kidding" or "but he tried so hard," but she never did. She just moved on to some other topic, like she hadn't just punched me in the gut with her words. I finished washing that plate, dried it carefully, and set it in the cabinet. Then I washed another and another, methodical, focused, like if I just concentrated on this simple task, I wouldn't have to think about what I'd just heard. But the words kept echoing in my head. He can't please anyone anyway. The worst part? This wasn't the first time. This was just the first time I actually paid attention. It was like someone had finally adjusted the focus on a camera I'd been looking through for years, and suddenly everything was crystal clear. Every dismissive comment, every eye roll, every sigh of disappointment. It had all been there all along. I just hadn't wanted to see it before. Before I get into what happened next, let me give you some background. Jess and I met when I was 26 and she was 24. I was working as a financial advisor at this mid-sized firm, making decent money, but nothing crazy. I wasn't some Wall Street bro, just a regular guy helping regular people figure out their retirement plans. And believe me, I was good at it though. Had a way of explaining complicated financial stuff that didn't make people's eyes glaze over. I met Jessica at a mutual friend's wedding. She was a bridesmaid, I was a groomsman. Classic setup, right? She was this gorgeous blonde who worked in marketing for a luxury clothing brand, way out of my league, or so I thought. When she agreed to dance with me at the reception, I thought our friend must have put her up to it or something. When she gave me her number, at the end of the night, I was sure it was a fake. It wasn't. We went out the next weekend. I spent 3 hours getting ready for that first date. 3 hours for a guy who usually just throws on whatever's clean. That should tell you something. I tried on every decent shirt I owned, got a haircut the day before, actually Googled the restaurant to make sure I was taking her somewhere nice enough. The date went well, really well. She laughed at my jokes, touched my arm a lot, all those signs that she was actually into me. I couldn't believe it. I kept waiting for the catch, for her to reveal she was just doing this on a dare or something. But date 1 turned into date 2, then 3. Then before I knew it, we were exclusive. Looking back now, there were red flags. On our 4th date, I took her to this Italian place I loved. Family-owned, amazing food, but not fancy. She picked at her pasta, made a comment about how she usually went to the one downtown, the one that cost 3 times as much. When I got her flowers for Valentine's Day, she mentioned her ex always got them from some specific florist I'd never heard of. Little things I brushed off because, well, she was Jessica, and I was just grateful she was with me. We got married 2 years later. I thought I'd hit the jackpot. My parents loved her. My mom especially was thrilled I'd found someone so accomplished and beautiful. Her parents tolerated me. They never said anything outright negative, but there was always this undercurrent of, Jessica could have done better. Her dad was a successful surgeon. Her mom came from old money. I was solidly middle class, with student loans and a Honda Civic. After we got married, things moved fast. We bought a house in a neighborhood we couldn't quite afford because Jessica insisted it was where we needed to be for her career networking. I worked my ass off to give her the life she wanted. I put in 60-hour weeks to climb the corporate ladder so she could have the kitchen renovation she wanted. The vacations to resorts in Mexico, the designer bags. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy those things too, but man, most of the time I was doing it for her. I remember this one vacation in a 5-star resort ocean view room, the works. Cost me nearly a month's salary. I was stressed the whole time about the money, but seeing her happy, actually genuinely happy, made it seem worth it. She spent the entire week posting photos on Instagram, #blessed, hubby does it right, living my best life. Looking back now, I can see how it started small. A comment here, a look there. The way she'd sigh when I gave her a gift, the way she'd compare me to her friends' husbands. Ryan took Sarah to Paris for their anniversary. Jason just got promoted to vice president, always making me feel like I wasn't quite measuring up, and like a fucking idiot, I just tried harder. By year 5 of our marriage, I was exhausted. Constantly walking on eggshells, constantly trying to anticipate what would make her happy, what would set her off. We went to therapy briefly. Her idea, after I forgot our anniversary. I remember sitting in that office, listening to her list all the ways I'd failed her, nodding along like she was right, promising to do better. The therapist, a woman around our age, with these huge glasses, asked Jessica what she appreciated about me. There was this long pause, like uncomfortable long. Finally, Jessica said, "He's very reliable, and he's good with money." Like I was a fucking Honda Civic, reliable, good mileage, nothing special, but gets the job done. We stopped going after 3 sessions. Jessica said the therapist was clearly biased because she'd asked Jessica to also work on communication. God forbid anyone suggest that Jessica wasn't perfect. By the time that dinner party rolled around, we'd been living separate lives in the same house for months. I worked, went to the gym, came home, watched TV in the basement while she did whatever she did upstairs. We hadn't had sex in, I don't even remember how long, months at least. I tried to initiate a few times, but her rejections had gotten more and more brutal, so eventually I just stopped trying. It wasn't a marriage anymore, it was a business arrangement. I provided the lifestyle, she provided, well, I wasn't sure what she provided anymore. The illusion of a perfect life for her Instagram followers, I guess. After everyone left that night, I couldn't sleep. Jessica fell asleep almost immediately, like she always did, out like a light at 11:30, regardless of what was going on. I lay there next to her, staring at the ceiling, her words playing on repeat in my head, "He can't please anyone anyway." The thing is, I'd always thought of myself as pretty easy to please. I didn't need fancy stuff. I was happy with pizza and beer for dinner, watching a game with friends, simple things. But somehow in Jessica's narrative, I had become this impossible-to-please person. Someone who could never be satisfied, no matter how hard she supposedly tried. And apparently everyone we knew believed it. I started thinking about all the times she'd made me feel small. All the eye rolls, all the sighs when I didn't do something exactly right. All the sarcastic jokes at my expense. I remembered her birthday last year. I'd planned this whole surprise weekend getaway to Napa. I'd researched wineries, found this boutique hotel with amazing reviews, even arranged for a private wine tasting tour. When I revealed the surprise, showing her the itinerary I'd worked on for weeks, she just sighed and said, "Couldn't you have booked the resort I showed you instead of this place?" I remembered cooking a steak dinner for her after taking an actual cooking class to get better. She always complained about my cooking. I'd practiced for weeks, getting the sear just right, making this complicated red wine reduction sauce. She took one bite, made a face, and pushed the plate away without saying anything. Just ordered takeout, like my effort meant nothing. I remember dressing up in my best suit for her company party, the one she'd been stressing about for weeks because her boss would be there. I spent 30 minutes on my tie alone, making sure it was perfect. As we were about to leave, she looked me up and down and said, "That tie doesn't really go with that shirt, but whatever, we're already late." I spent the whole night feeling like everyone was staring at my apparently mismatched tie. One memory after another, just this highlight reel of every time I felt like crap in our marriage. The time she corrected my pronunciation of a wine in front of her friends. The way she'd answer questions directed at me, like I couldn't be trusted to speak for myself. How she'd check my work emails before I sent them to make sure they sounded professional. The constant stream of little criticisms, my haircut, my posture, the way I loaded the dishwasher. And yet, I kept trying anyway. I kept telling myself that she was just stressed, or that she didn't mean it the way it sounded, or that if I just tried harder, she'd finally look at me the way I always looked at her. But laying there that night, watching her sleep peacefully like nothing had happened, I finally got it. It was never about what I was doing wrong. It was about the fact that nothing I did would ever be good enough for her. I wasn't the problem. I had never been the problem. For the first time in our marriage, I felt angry. Not the flash-in-the-pan frustration I'd felt during arguments, but a deep, simmering rage. I'd given her everything. My time, my energy, my fucking soul. And she'd just taken and taken and taken, all while making me believe I was the selfish one, the difficult one. I got out of bed around 3 a.m., careful not to wake her. I went downstairs and sat in the dark living room, where hours earlier I'd been humiliated without even knowing it. And I drank. And for the first time in a long, long time, I thought about what I wanted. Not what would make Jessica happy. Not what would avoid her disappointment. Just what I, Mike, actually wanted. And what I wanted was out. I woke up the next morning on the couch, my neck stiff. For a second, I was disoriented. Then the events of the previous night came flooding back, and with them, a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't hungover. I'd only had the one drink. But something had definitely shifted inside me. I checked my watch, 6:15 a.m. Jessica wouldn't be up for hours. On a Sunday, she liked to sleep in until at least 9, then spend another hour scrolling on her phone before she'd even consider getting out of bed. I got up, showered, and then went out. I didn't leave a note, didn't text her to say where I was. Just put on my shoes and got the hell out of the house for a few hours. When I got back, Jessica was in the kitchen, still in her silk pajamas, hair perfectly tousled, like she'd stepped out of a shampoo commercial, even though she'd just woken up. She had that look on her face, the one that meant I was in trouble. "Where were you?" she demanded. "I woke up and you were just gone." No note, no text, nothing. Before, I would have apologized immediately. I would have fallen all over myself explaining, making excuses, promising never to worry her again. But this time, I just grabbed a water bottle from the fridge and drank half of it before answering. "Went out," I said simply. "For over 2 hours?" Her voice had that edge to it, the one that usually made me scramble to smooth things over. "Yep." I started making breakfast, deliberately not looking at her, not engaging with her annoyance. "Well, I needed you here," she said. "My parents are coming over later, and I wanted you to help me move the furniture in the living room. I want to try that arrangement I saw in Architectural Digest." This was classic Jessica, making plans that involved my labor without bothering to check if I was available or willing, expecting me to drop everything to fulfill her latest whim. Before, I would have rushed to help her right away, maybe even skipped breakfast to make her happy. But this time, I just said, "I'll help you after I eat." She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "But they'll be here in 2 hours. "That's plenty of time," I said, making my breakfast calmly. "Besides, you could have texted me if it was urgent." "I shouldn't have to text my own husband to be where he's supposed to be," she snapped. I finished making my food, then looked directly at her. "And where exactly am I supposed to be, Jessica? At your beck and call 24/7? Her eyes widened. In 8 years of marriage, I'd never spoken to her like that. Hell, I'd rarely spoken to anyone like that. I'd always been the peacekeeper, the people pleaser, the guy who'd rather swallow his own feelings than cause conflict. "What is wrong with you?" she asked, her voice quieter now, uncertain. "Nothing's wrong with me," I said. "I'm just tired. I'm going to eat now." After breakfast, I helped Jessica move the furniture, but I did it my way, suggesting a different arrangement than what she'd seen in the magazine, one that made more sense for the actual space we had. To my surprise, she didn't fight me on it. She just watched me with this strange expression, like she was seeing me for the first time. Her parents came over. I was polite but not fawning, like I usually was. When her dad started in on his usual subtle digs about my career, "How's the financial planning business? Still telling people to save for retirement?" With that condescending laugh of his, I didn't just smile and take it. "It's going well, James," I said, using his first name instead of sir like I usually did. "Just helped a client navigate a 7-figure inheritance last month. Saved him about $150,000 in taxes with some creative planning." James blinked, clearly not expecting me to actually stand up for myself. "Well," he said after a moment, "good for you." The rest of the visit was intense but uneventful. When they left, Jessica rounded on me. "What was that about?" she demanded. "What was what about?" "You know what? You were different with my dad. With me, what's going on with you?" I considered giving her some excuse. Stress at work, not feeling well, anything to avoid the real conversation. But I was done avoiding. "I heard what you said last night," I told her, "at the party." She frowned, genuinely confused. "What did I say?" "He can't please anyone anyway," I quoted her exact words, her exact tone. Her expression shifted from confusion to recognition to defensiveness in the span of seconds. That was nothing, just a joke." It didn't sound like a joke, and no one laughed like it was a joke. "You're being too sensitive," she said, waving a hand dismissively. "It wasn't a big deal." "It was to me," I said quietly, "and it made me realize something. You don't respect me, Jessica. You haven't for a long time, if you ever did." "That's ridiculous," she scoffed. "Of course I respect you." "No, you don't. You criticize everything I do. You put me down in front of your friends, your family. You make me feel like I'm never good enough, like I'm always failing somehow." I don't do that, she insisted, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Guilt maybe, or just annoyance at being called out. You do, and I've let you because I've been so fucking desperate for your approval that I've lost myself completely. I ran a hand through my hair, feeling both drained and strangely energized. But I'm done with that now. What is that supposed to mean? She asked, her voice rising slightly. It means I'm done trying to please you. It means I'm going to start living for myself again, not for your approval. She stared at me for a long moment, then her face hardened. Is this some kind of midlife crisis? Are you going to go buy a motorcycle and start wearing leather next? I almost laughed at how predictable her response was. Immediate dismissal, trying to make me feel foolish for standing up for myself. No, Jessica, this is me finally seeing our marriage clearly. This is me deciding I deserve better than being your emotional punching bag. You're being dramatic, she said, but I could see a flash of fear in her eyes. She was losing control of the narrative of me, and she didn't like it one bit. Maybe, I said, but I'm still done. I slept in the guest room that night, and the night after that. Jessica alternated between icy silence and attempts to pick fights. I didn't engage with either. I was polite but distant, like we were roommates rather than spouses. It was the beginning of the end, though I didn't fully realize it yet. Over the next few weeks, I kept up my new approach. I wasn't trying to be an asshole. I wasn't playing games or trying to get back at her. I just stopped bending over backwards for someone who never even tried to meet me halfway. At home, I stopped walking on eggshells. If she made a sarcastic comment, I didn't argue or try to prove her wrong. I just let it hang there until she realized I wasn't going to react. That shirt makes you look like you're trying too hard, she said one morning as I was getting dressed for work. Before, I would have changed immediately. This time I just looked at her, shrugged, and said, I like it. Then I went downstairs and made my breakfast. I stopped filling the silence when she sighed dramatically, waiting for me to ask, what's wrong? I stopped apologizing for stuff that wasn't my fault. I stopped sacrificing my own comfort just to make her comfortable, and that's when she started to really notice. It began with little jabs. You've been acting weird lately. What's gotten into you? You're being a jerk, you know that? I think at first, she thought it was temporary, like maybe I was just in a bad mood or going through some phase. But as days turned into weeks, she realized this wasn't temporary. I wasn't the same guy anymore, and that bothered the hell out of her. She tried different tactics. First, she tried to seduce me. After weeks of barely acknowledging my existence physically, suddenly she was walking around in lingerie, accidentally brushing against me in the kitchen, suggesting we take showers together. I wasn't made of stone. Part of me, a significant part if I'm being honest, wanted to give in. Not just for the physical release, but because it would have been so easy to fall back into our old patterns. Sex, followed by a brief period of what felt like connection. Followed by the slow slide back into emotional manipulation and control. But I didn't give in. I was polite but distant. Not tonight became my go-to phrase. Each rejection seemed to shock her more than the last. In her world, male sexuality was a weapon to be used against men. Offer it and they'll do anything. Withhold it and they'll fall in line. The idea that I could say no repeatedly was completely foreign to her worldview. When seduction failed, she tried guilt. She started bringing up my parents who adored her. Your mom called today, she'd say casually. She asked how we're doing. I didn't know what to tell her. Or, don't you think your dad would be disappointed in how you're acting? This one was harder to resist. My parents had raised me to believe that marriage was forever, that working through problems was just what you did. The thought of disappointing them did weigh on me. But then I'd remember the years of subtle humiliation, of feeling like I was never enough, and I'd stay firm. My parents want me to be happy, I'd say. That's all. When guilt didn't work, she tried fear. You know you'll never find anyone else like me, she said one night after another failed attempt to get me to open up about what was really going on. God, I hope not, I replied before I could stop myself. Her face crumpled, and for a moment I felt terrible. But then her expression hardened. You think you're so much better off without me? Good luck with that. You'll be begging to come back within a month. I don't think I'm better than you, Jessica, I said tiredly. I just think I deserve better than this, than us. So that's it? 8 years of marriage and you're just giving up? I'm not giving up. I'm just finally acknowledging what's been true for a long time. We don't make each other happy. We haven't for years if we ever did. She had no response to that, because deep down I think she knew it was true. She started testing me, throwing out little barbs to see if I'd bite. You never do anything right. You'd be lost without me. God, you're impossible. Before I would have jumped to defend myself. I would have tried so hard to prove her wrong, to convince her I was good enough. But now I just looked at her, let her words sit there and then moved on, like they meant nothing. Because they didn't, not anymore. The first time I just looked at her and walked away, I saw something flicker across her face. Not anger, not frustration, uncertainty. And that's when I realized she'd always been in control, not by force or direct commands, but through expectations. She had shaped me over time, worn me down like water on stone, until I was someone who never questioned, never pushed back, never existed outside of what she needed me to be. But that version of Mike was gone, and she had no idea what to do with the new one. One weekend, about 2 months into this new normal, I decided to visit my brother in Chicago. He'd been asking me to come see their new house for months, but Jessica had always found a reason why we couldn't go. Too busy. Bad timing. She didn't like my sister-in-law. Whatever. This time, I just booked the flight. I told Jessica on Monday that I'd be gone that Friday through Sunday. "You're going to Chicago this weekend?" She looked stunned. "But we have the Andersons' dinner party on Saturday." The Andersons were her boss and his wife. Important for her career, completely irrelevant to mine. "You have the Andersons' dinner party," I corrected her. "I'll be in Chicago." "You can't just not go," she sputtered. "Martin specifically asked if you'd be there. He wants to talk to you about their retirement planning." "He has my email for that," I said. "I'm sure you can explain that I had a prior commitment." "A prior commitment you just decided?" "No, Jessica. My brother has been asking me to visit for months. I've been putting it off for your convenience. I'm not doing that anymore." "So you're just going to embarrass me in front of my boss? Make me go alone like some sad single person?" "You're not single," I pointed out. "You're married to someone who has their own life and their own family. Sometimes those things won't align perfectly with your career networking." She stared at me like I'd suggested we start sacrificing kittens in the backyard. The idea that my needs, my relationships, might sometimes take precedence over hers was completely alien to her. "If you leave this weekend," she said finally, her voice low and dangerous, "don't bother coming back." I looked at her for a long moment. "Is that really how you want to play this, Jessica? Ultimatums?" "It's not an ultimatum, it's a fact. If you choose your brother over me, over us, then we're done." I took a deep breath. "My brother isn't a choice, he's family. Just like your sister isn't a choice for you. The fact that you see my wanting to maintain my relationship with my own brother as some kind of betrayal says everything about where we are right now." "That's not what I meant," she backtracked slightly. "Of course you can see your brother, just not this weekend, not when it's important for us to be at this dinner." "Important for you," I corrected. "Not for us, not for me. My career matters too, Mike. I never said it didn't, but so does my family. So does my life outside of being your husband." She threw her hands up in frustration. "I don't even know who you are anymore." "That's the thing, Jessica. I'm not sure you ever did." I went to Chicago that weekend. The entire time I was there, Jessica alternated between angry texts demanding I come home immediately and wounded messages about how hurt she was that I'd abandoned her. I responded to neither. Then came the anger. One night, after I got back, I was sitting on the couch watching the game and having a beer completely unbothered. She was pacing around, huffing under her breath, and I could feel the tension building. "You don't even care about this marriage anymore, do you?" she finally snapped. I looked up at her. I could have said a lot of things. I could have denied it, tried to soothe her like I always did. I could have pretended just to keep the peace. But I didn't. "Not the way it is now," I said simply. And that's when she lost it. Not violently, but in a way that told me she finally realized she had no control left. She threw every accusation she could think of. How I was cold, how I had changed, how I was selfish and distant and different. "You're not the man I married." That one made me pause, because for the first time in a long time I looked at her and agreed. "No, I'm not. That guy let you walk all over him for years. I'm done with that." Her face went white. In 8 years of marriage, I had never spoken to her like that. 3 weeks after our confrontation, I was served with divorce papers at work. Classic Jessica move, trying to embarrass me in front of my colleagues. I just signed for them, thanked the courier, and went back to my meeting. My boss, who had met Jessica at company events and clearly never liked her, just gave me a nod of respect. I moved out that weekend, got a decent apartment closer to my office. I expected to feel devastated, but mostly I felt relieved. I started sleeping better, started smiling more. My buddies noticed the change. "Dude, you seem like your old self again," my friend Dave said one night over beers. And I realized he was right. I was becoming the guy I used to be before Jessica. Confident, laid back, actually enjoying my life instead of constantly worrying about measuring up. I hired a good lawyer and prepared for war. Jessica had always threatened that she'd take me for everything if we ever divorced. I wasn't about to let that happen. I had documentation of my contributions to our lifestyle, records of how my income had supported her shopping habits and expensive tastes. I wasn't trying to screw her over, but I wasn't going to be screwed over either. But here's where karma stepped in. 2 months into our separation, Jessica's company announced major layoffs. The luxury retail market had been hit hard by a recession, and her firm was consolidating. She was one of the first to go. Her fancy marketing job with the expense account and company car gone. A week later, I got a text from her asking if we could talk. I agreed to meet her for coffee, in public, with witnesses, because I wasn't an idiot. She looked terrible. The designer clothes and perfect makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes or how thin she'd gotten. She'd always been slim, but now she looked fragile, breakable. For a moment, I felt a pang of concern. Despite everything, I had loved this woman for nearly a decade. Seeing her suffer didn't bring me the satisfaction I might have expected. "I've been doing some thinking," she said, stirring her latte nervously. "Maybe we rushed into this divorce thing." "You filed, Jessica, not me." "I was angry," she said. "You changed so suddenly I didn't know how to handle it." "I didn't change," I said. "I just stopped putting up with being treated like shit." She flinched at that. "Good, I lost my job," she admitted after a moment of uncomfortable silence. "The severance isn't great and the housing market is horrible right now, so selling the house and—" There it was, not "I miss you" or "I realize how badly I treated you," just "I need your money." "That sounds tough," I said, finishing my coffee, "but it's not my problem anymore." Her eyes widened. "Mike, please, I don't have anywhere to go. My parents are in Europe for the next 3 months. Emma's place is tiny. I can't afford the mortgage on my own." "You should have thought about that before treating me like your personal doormat for 8 years, I said, standing up. "You're smart, Jessica. You'll figure it out." She actually started crying then, right there in Starbucks. The old Mike would have caved immediately. "We could try counseling," she said desperately. "I'll change, I promise. I've already started talking to someone, a therapist. She's helping me understand why I behave the way I do. It's related to my childhood, to my father's expectations." "Stop," I interrupted. "I don't need to hear about your therapeutic breakthroughs. It's too late for that." "It's never too late," she insisted, reaching for my hand across the table. I pulled it back before she could touch me. "People change, Mike. I'm changing. I can be better. We can be better together." I looked at her for a long moment. "You know what? I believe you might try for a while, until things got better for you, until you felt secure again, and then we'd be right back, where we started." "No, it would be different." "It doesn't matter," I cut her off, "because I don't want you back. Not now, not ever." Her face crumpled. I think that was the first time in her life someone she wanted hadn't wanted her back. "I still love you," she whispered. "No, you don't," I said, not unkindly. "You love what I provided. Stability, adoration, financial support. That's not the same as loving me." I walked out of that Starbucks feeling 10 feet tall. My lawyer called the next day to say Jessica was suddenly open to a much more reasonable settlement. Funny how that works. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Jessica had to move out of our house. She couldn't afford to buy me out, and I had no interest in keeping a place with so many bad memories. We sold it at a slight loss due to the market, split the proceeds according to our agreement, and went our separate ways. Through mutual friends, I heard she had to move to a crappy apartment in a less desirable neighborhood. She found a new job eventually, but at a much smaller company with a significantly lower salary. Her Instagram, which had once been full of vacation photos and designer purchases tagged #blessed, became quiet. No more carefully curated images of her perfect life. No more thinly veiled brags disguised as gratitude. I'm 35 now, single but dating again, taking my time. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago. I bought a smaller house in a neighborhood I actually like, close to my friends. I'm dating a woman now, Allison, 33, a pediatric nurse with a wicked sense of humor and the kind of genuine kindness that Jessica could never quite manage to fake. It's early days, but it's good, easy, in a way things with Jessica never were. Allison laughs at my jokes, tells me when I'm being an idiot in a loving way, and seems genuinely interested in what I think and feel. The first time she asked, "What do you want to do this weekend?" and actually waited for my answer, I nearly proposed on the spot. Last month, Jessica texted me out of the blue. She'd heard through our mutual friends that I was seeing someone new. "I hope she makes you happy," she wrote, then immediately followed it with, "My lease is up next month, and I'm having trouble finding a new place. Could you maybe co-sign for me, just as a favor for old time's sake?" Some people never change. I blocked her number. Sometimes I think about how close I came to spending my whole life trying to please someone who was never going to be pleased. How one overheard comment at a dinner party changed everything. It wasn't just about standing up to Jessica. It was about remembering who I was, a man with self-respect. A man who doesn't need someone else's approval to feel worthy. And that, gentlemen, is worth more than any marriage, house, or lifestyle.